Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. In this module, we'll talk on how the evolution of MSL as a role, as a function has happened over the course of time, and we will also discuss upon the skills which are required for this role and how the progress has seen in the medical affairs where the MSL role contributes. So this MSL role was first established by Upjohn Pharmaceuticals in 1967 as a response to need for a scientifically trained field staff who was vital for the completion of the field medical activities and establish and foster a strong relationship with the key external experts with the therapy area that the company is working upon. They provide they provided a credible link to the external stakeholders and helping to bridge the gap between the clinical development and the commercial success of any of the products. But initially, it was more like a part of commercial team, and the first MSLs were experienced sales representatives with a bit of scientific background. And today, what we see is that MSLs form a major part of the medical function, and the reporting structure is more towards in the medical function. And they have got advanced training in science, so be it MBBS, MD, PhD, PharmD, and other life sciences background are usually taken up for these particular roles. So moving on, if we go into any particular role since the day of inception till the current day, what we see is that it is never the same. It gradually evolves, and the same thing we have seen for the medical science liaisons as well. So today, what we have seen is that MSLs have become one of the most prominent roles in the healthcare industry, while once existing mostly as a supporting and background supporting end for the commercial and for the pharmas and life sciences companies. Now MSLs are trying to be in the forefront of operations, strategy, and execution, and they're not just there for educating and informing the doctors, but they are there for accelerating a medical science innovation. So with that, let's see and compare how it was in the past, the role of MSL in the past, present, and what we are expecting for the future. So in the past, what we have seen is that it was majorly focusing on established market, primary care focus. So only the physicians and the markets were very much mature. There's no new science to discuss. It was more of meeting the HCPs or the doctors, and we used to follow a very traditional mode of face-to-face visits, and it was more of a how can we compete with the other branded agents, or how better we can provide a USP for the branded agents. So it was more about pushing the brand of a company first rather than science. So this was something in the past, and if we see now, if we currently, what's happening is that we are, uh, you know, more into specialty care, where uh, the innovative molecules are present. There is innovative mechanism of action to that particular molecule, and majoritarily, ma- uh, the areas that we are focusing on as rare disease, oncology, and cardiovascular, nephrology, ophthalmology. So you name the specialized care that is available, and where there is innovation, there is a role for MSL. So it's still right now we are seeing for smaller and multi indication brands. Emerging markets also be present, uh, And we are not just focusing on the doctors, but now we are trying to influence the payers, the third party insurance companies, uh, wherein we can push the science and make sure innovative care is made available to the patients. So right now, the patients are always kept in the center, and our activities or our work or approach is focused on that manner. And the communication is not just face-to-face visits, but there's a digital, uh, a mix of digital and also we are trying to integrate or still naive stages of omni-channel engagement. And finally, the science to talk on is more complex in currently. So how do we see a future of this particular role? We are focusing towards uh, from innovation to how uh, pinpoint accuracy or efficacy we can increase by uh, focusing on the biomarkers. So higher efficacy and good safety profile of the molecules uh, you know are being focused upon, and our stakeholders will again be highly niche and segmented specialists, which will help the patients to profile based on the molecule that we have got. So genetic profiling will become a norm in the future. Biomarker testing will become a norm in future, but the science will still remain naive. So there will be a scope for real world evidence studies wherein we can, as a field as medical associates, can uh, interact with the HCPs and KOLs and come up with the studies or real world evidence with which we can bridge the gap of wherever the molecules are lacking and how we can place in a niche area of therapy. So the specialists will be highly segmented. There will be a broader spectrum of healthcare division uh, where we are not just talking to the HCPs or doctors, but uh, other stakeholders as well who are like a policy makers. We might start talking to not directly, but patients, because patients' voice is still unheard. So patients can voice can help us in influencing uh, the major decisions taken by the pharma company. And finally, the health economics and outcome research. Uh, so, because we need to evaluate the cost versus benefit. So here, HEOR studies will become a go-to thing in the future that we are hoping for. If we look upon the roles and responsibilities of MSL, we can divide into majorly 5 different points. So first, if we see the day-to-day works involves the dissemination of scientific data. So a disease area that you're working upon in a pharma company, you the molecule that you'll be working for, it'll have a rich science to it. Uh, the globally you'll be having many scientific publications. So this particular data, how well you'll be able to communicate to the external stakeholders. So what is in it for them? Why do you have to listen? They have to listen to you. Here, the value addition that you can get is how well you are able to present that, which will help the doctors treat their patients. So day-to-day responsibility is to deliver the scientific data. The therapy uh, updates are given, mode of action of that molecule, and the key scientific evidence. So delivering these key points in a non-commercial event will be your second major role or responsibility. The third one, if we see, is all about developing a KOL. So as you can see, you know, the doctors community will listen to the senior most doctors or the experienced ones. So if you are able to develop medically sound or given a sound knowledge to those key opinion leaders, and in return they will talk to other peers of theirs with which the therapy area is being developed, uh, and the patients are getting innovative therapies. So in short, you are training who are the trainers of the other key opinion leaders or the other HCPs. Okay, so this was about external focus. What are we doing internally for the internal stakeholders is that we are trying to get in these key insights back to other cross-functional teams and also provide the training required scientific acumen to the commercial folks with which they are able to talk to their other doctors with a greater uh, science and greater conviction towards science. Okay, and finally, we as MSLs will engage with the external stakeholders uh, to develop the unmet needs in the data that we have got, and also involving them in the investigated initiated results to get the real world evidence. Now that we have seen the roles and responsibilities of MSL, let's see how this particular role is throughout the product life cycle. So let's divide it into early development of the molecule, pre-launch, launch, and post-launch. Early in the development, MSL's role is not to that level in India, but what we have seen in other countries, and personally that I have worked on, uh, the MSLs actually will have a pivotal role in this particular stage, wherein our interaction with these investigators will help us understanding and getting the key insights required for positioning that particular molecule in the future in a complex therapy regime that the doctors follow. So this is a stage where we create that extra interest in the KOLs by discussing the science, the new mechanism of action, and building. And with this, we get to build an awareness in these doctors, and the insights that are gathered will help us in designing a better protocol which will help in the development of the molecule. Now that a molecule is approved by the regulatory authority in a country, the role of medical is to have a robust pre-launch plan. And how do we do that? Is to build awareness through the medical strategy that is laid down by the team, and this will help in laying a foundation for the market access and the launch. The reason why medical plays an important role in pre-launch is that before the launch, the commercial team will not be able to discuss the sales of a molecule to that level as compared to the medical. So the activities in terms of scientific engagement, scientific meetings, presenting the data of the key trials from phase 3 or phase 2 will help in establishing a rapport and also getting the key insights which will help us in the future launch. Also, this is a stage where uh, investigator initiated studies can start off by having those key discussions. Once the drug is launched and available in the market, now is the time when the doctors will start hearing about this from everywhere. So there are different stakeholders who keep meeting these doctors, And this is a time where the real world evidences in terms of the clinical practice, practice sharing by the doctors will come handy. And the doctors will try to listen to these discussions, looking into the real world clinical practice. So the medical plan will be in support of the commercial plan, and also to align on the key objectives, and the cross-functional collaboration is really key during the launch of a molecule, and this support will help in the future success of the commercial. With 1 to 2 years down the launch, and the penetration of the prescribers will increase in the geography. So answering to the prescriber questions will be a major part of the a major role of the MSL, along with the continued medical education. Since the user experience increases, there will be a scope for implementation of a publication for the experience that the doctor has got with the drug. To determine the strategy, and we can develop an operational plan for the development of a real world data generation, and later on publish that data. Along with that, there might be a scope for developing or establishing a registry and looking for more formal observational studies. Now that we have seen how MSL contributes from the early development to the post-launch, let's get a bird's eye view of how MSL as a field-based medical affairs is provides this collaboration with different stakeholders. So in this complex slide, if I break down, uh, let's see how the MSL is bridging the needs in a organization. So let's bucket them into 5 topics. First one is insight generation and helping in execution of the medical strategies. So insight generation is the day-to-day thing as we interact with the doctors and get those key flavor or pulse of the doctors that they are facing into day-to-day life, and address those unmet needs with by providing proper support, and product value proposition comes handy here, and also develop a medical and product lifecycle strategy by having a discussion with your peers in HO. So in collaboration, uh, our key internal stakeholders will involve compliance and legal, regulatory, commercial, and clin development team to a little extent. But whatever activities are done, it has to be in in collaboration and also in compliance, because if the activities which are executed are non-compliant, then will be held responsible, and that is a very big deviation for an organization. So, all the activities will be done in a compliant manner, and the interactions that we have with key opinion leaders, the main aim is to develop and build relationships which is in a professional manner, and use this relations for building an advocacy for the drug or the therapy that we are working for. And these can be led to development of advisory boards, which are very key in getting those questions answered, which are helpful for the development of the product life cycle. Next, going to the medical and scientific communication. So one is the public development of a publication program, and any standard response document that the frequently asked questions which are there, and we are creating those medical responses, uh, contribute in training programs by having a regular uh, training modules for the commercial colleagues, because uh, they interact on a larger extent with the doctors, and we will be pivotal in answering or helping them with the questions which are probably off label, or getting those in-depth scientific information where the sales might be lacking. The review of uh, promotional materials is somewhat done by the HO Medical, but we do contribute here and there, and managing the continued medical education. So, in post launch or clinical development, investigator initiated trial is something most of the doctors are keen to partner with, and the collaboration works really well uh, if we are achieving a publication out of it. And for the future, we can look at health economics and outcome research, wherein we'll be able to develop the real world evidence and use this as a value proposition, and position the molecule in a better manner. This complex role of MSLs, there are varied skill set that are required. But for this workshop or a module, let's focus on four of the key skills that are required, and starting off with KOL engagement. So day to day, how we are engaging with these key doctors or key opinion leaders. We involve them in strategic projects, we involve them in publications, we involve them in an advisory board meeting, and there are a lot of soft skills that are required to convince them to be a part of these projects, wherein their expert contribution will help us in designing a very good, robust medical strategy. And uh, but how do we identify these KOLs and whom do we engage with? So there is a mapping exercise that is done. So wherein we interact with them and understand their caliber. Again, soft skills comes handy here on how well we are able to evaluate them and select those right doctors or KOLs who can be a part of the engagement plan. Second one is scientific education. So this is for both internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. How well we are able to deliver these scientific presentations and convey the key message, uh, with which we are able to get in the key insights and also to deliver the key information to the external stakeholders. And this can be in various avenues, at scientific conferences, at our company sponsored meetings, at also having face-to-face interactions one-on-one and addressing their medical needs. And also for internal stakeholders, how well we are taking these training sessions and developing our commercial team is a very good skill that one has to develop for a effective MSL. The third very important skill required is how well we are able to collaborate with the cross-functional team. So we are calling it as cross-functional team support. So here, it's not just within the medical that you'll collaborate and work with. Like I had mentioned, the commercial team, the marketing team, uh, the medical access, uh, be it legal compliance. So all the stakeholders requirement is very important. So the team's success is how well one is able to collaborate. So, for example, there will be day-to-day collaborations with the commercial team uh, in during meetings with the doctors. So there are certain rules which a company lays, like for example, you'll not be able to do a collaborative call or collaborative meeting, like in terms of doing meeting them together, but certain organizations do allow. So based on the organization requirement, to what extent we are able to collaborate, the collaboration has to be there, and with that, we'll be able to act as a scientific ambassador for the internal stakeholders. And the insights that we are developing by having a regular discussion will have to be taken back to the organization, which will help in developing a very good, robust medical strategy and a tactical plan. And finally, an important uh, skill is how effective we are able to abide to the rules and norms of an organization. We are calling it as personal governance. Doing a number of activities or functions in an organization without abiding to rules and norms set by any particular authority, uh, it is of waste. So doing those effective activities by abiding to the governance or SOPs will help us in establishing a very efficient partner within an organization. So the scientific knowledge upgradation that we have got and how well we are able to do day-to-day activities in a compliant manner will determine the effectiveness of a MSL. So to summarize, these four key skills will be really essential for an effective growth of an MSL, of a individual development, and also being a key strategic partner within a pharma organization. Thank you so much for your patient listening, and I hope this module will be of very much importance for your day-to-day functioning as a MSL. And stay tuned for more such modules. And thank you for joining Medical Affairs Society. Have a good day.